New Orleans Saints football is finally back. Rookie minicamps begin tomorrow, and all eyes are on rookie quarterback Tyler Shough. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as the Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net and Saints analyst with WWL TV. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, injuries, something we're definitely going to be on the lookout for when it comes to rookie minicamp. We'll also take a look at three players and where they're lining up, how they're being used, and what we're seeing from them, how that ends up impacting this New Orleans Saints team's outlook in 2025. We're going to kick everything off with Tyler Shough, the rookie quarterback out of Louisville. All eyes will be on him throughout rookie minicamps. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us your first listen, being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply over at Game Time. This is going to be the first of many chances for rookie quarterback Tyler Shough to begin impressing the New Orleans Saints coaching staff and potentially starting to carve his way to a starting opportunity sooner rather than later. I am still of the mind that this New Orleans Saints coaching staff is going to select Tyler Shough as the starting quarterback at some point in 2025, possibly as early as week one. We'll see which way things go in terms of the competition that will eventually be on the way between Shough and Spencer Rattler. But during rookie minicamps, all eyes are on Tyler Shough, with Spencer Rattler, of course, not eligible to participate. So what it is that we're looking for from him comes down to simply seeing him stand out as a passer. I'll take you back to last year's rookie minicamp. It was Spencer Rattler and it was Kellen Moore, who was there as a veteran player on a tryout basis. You can have 5 of those at rookie minicamps, and you could see the zip that was on the ball when Spencer Rattler passed, right? When he was the guy that was moving the ball downfield, all these other things. You could see the arm strength. You could see some of the mobility that he had. You could see all those things. And so you could feel the excitement for the team around Spencer Rattler very quickly. You're looking for the same thing here from Tyler Shough, who arguably is more athletic and is the bigger body, 6'5", 220 plus pounds. He is, or 219, 220 pounds. He is the prototypical quarterback. So what does that look like in New Orleans? We might get an opportunity to see probably for the first time, really outside of Derek Carr since Jameis Winston and everything. And so seeing him kind of look the part of a passer is going to be big. And a big part of looking the part of a passer is what kinds of passes does he have in his arsenal? Is he the type of quarterback that is just gunning passes in 50, I don't want to say 50 miles an hour, but you know what I mean? Like really like bulleting passes in when you're, throwing to the flats in the backfield where you really should have some touch or maybe even lob some passes, things like that. So we'll get an opportunity to see when can he go full speed versus when can he throttle down when it's appropriate. And what does his accuracy look like? We're talking about a guy that didn't necessarily have the most impressive accuracy numbers throughout his time over at Louisville. How are they going to help him move ahead and advance that category in terms of ball placement, accuracy, anticipation? How does the scheme help all of that improve? I think we'll start to get at least a little bit of a look at his individual progress with that as we get our opportunity to head over to see Saints rookie minicamps on Saturday is when media will be present, but they'll begin in earnest tomorrow. I want to see how much he talks to coaches in between reps. Like if I'm him, I am in Kellen Moore's face all the time, as much as I can be. Anytime that I'm not doing a rep or I'm in between reps or they're setting up a different drill or something like that, I'm over and I'm talking to Kellen Moore because I want Kellen Moore to pick me. That's what I'm wanting if I'm Tyler Shough, right? Because look, when this competition between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough begins to heat up over the course of the offseason, assuming that Derek Carr is out of the picture, which we don't know for sure is the case, we'll have to see how things pan out. But if that is going to be the case for at least the beginning of the season, even if Derek Carr is in the picture, you need to make sure that you're the favorite for the coaching staff. Now, look, Kellen Moore, Tyler Shough is Kellen Moore's guy. That's what's going to happen at some point during this 2025 season. I truly believe that. And we know, or we've heard at least, that Tyler Shough was the Kellen Moore pick. That's the quarterback that Kellen Moore liked. And so if I'm Tyler Shough, I know this is the guy that picked me. This is the reason why I'm here. This is the reason that I have an opportunity. So I'm going to be making sure that he sees me every chance that he gets. And when I'm not working, I'm talking to him. I'm talking to Scott Tolzien, the quarterback's coach. I'm talking to offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier. I'm making sure that this coaching staff wants me to be the quarterback and that they see everything they need to see from, yeah, he's so hungry. He wants more information. He's a sponge. He soaks stuff up. He's always looking to see what he can do next. Those are things that I would want said about me, because when you go into that competition later on with Spencer Rattler, you need to set yourself up to be the runner. And what I mean the runner, I mean the guy that is the pick by the coaching staff. Because if the two of you look the same, then Ty goes to the runner. And you need to be the runner in this situation. And if Spencer Rattler is going to win this job, Spencer Rattler will need to outperform Tyler Shough. There's not going to be any, well, they're even and Spencer Rattler's got more experience, so we'll roll with Spencer Rattler. You got to put yourself in position to be the runner. And so that's a good way for him to be able to do that. So I want to see those things. And I also just want to see the genuine desire, the authentic desire to get better, to develop, to improve, all those other things. And then finally, I want to see the way that he works with the offense and commands the offense. We'll see some opportunities where he gets the chance to like break huddles and call plays and all these other things. You're not going to see like, you know what? I really shouldn't say what we aren't going to see, because we don't know. It's a new coaching staff. But if they do any kind of, team drill or any kind of even 7-on-7, anything like that, it'll be good to just sort of see him getting out of the huddles, getting in and out of the huddles, communicating with the team, commanding the offense, moving players around, doing all those other things. I think that's going to be the other big thing to watch, is just kind of communication, right? If he misses a connection with somebody, do they find a point to come back to that, run it again, even off to the side, and then get that connection down and start to build that chemistry, all those other things. I think that that's something that could be really important and really impressive as well. So excited to see a bit more of Tyler Shough, or really our first look at Tyler Shough here throughout rookie minicamps in a New Orleans Saints uniform. He took number 6. He took that Thomas Morstead number, which Thomas Morstead urged him urged him to take, you know what I mean? And so cool to see that, but we'll see what number 6 has in store as a passer on Saturday when media is out there at rookie minicamps. Coming up next, 2 players that we're just trying to figure out where the heck are they going to line up. We got all that coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. So if you're in an area where you might be able to get to one of those playoff games, you want to make sure that you are buying those tickets with Game Time so you can be a part of all of that action without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Because right now you can save up to 60% on last-minute deals over at Game Time. If you're not in an area that's got NBA playoff action, don't worry. It's not just about sports. They've got comedy. They've got theater. They've got concerts as well. Look, Essence Fest tickets. You can get 3-day Essence Fest tickets, a 3-day pass for $210 right now over on Game Time. Make sure you go and check them out today. They got everything that you need waiting for you there. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets by buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use that promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, family, there are a pair of players that we're going to have our eyes on, of course, over during mandatory minicamps on Saturday as well, because we're trying to figure out where are they going to line up. First round pick, offensive lineman, Kelvin Banks Jr. coming here out of Texas. One of the Saints' rare top 10 offensive line selections that they've had in their history, and cornerback Quincy Riley coming out of Louisville. And so trying to figure out where these guys are going to be lined up is going to be massive and could tell us pretty much everything before we head into that 2025 season. Let's start off with Kelvin Banks. Some thought of Kelvin Banks as an interior offensive lineman in this year's draft. Many believed him to be a tackle. There was a great story that came out from Jeremy Fowler over at ESPN where he kind of went through each draft class, and after speaking to people from around the NFL, kind of got nuggets on every one of those draft picks. And one of the nuggets that came from an NFC personnel person was about how universally across the NFL, Kelvin Banks Jr. was seen as a top 10 tackle. And that wasn't the case in mock drafts and media boards and stuff like that. But this is what we always talk about. The media boards are not the same as the team boards. They very rarely are. And it's one of the reasons why you can't really say, oh, they could have gotten this player at this spot. You don't know that. You know that. You kind of know that because, yeah, my mock draft simulator says that this player is always available at pick 1, at round 1, pick 20. But that's not real, right? That's just a bunch of public users that are using that thing that then creates an average draft pick that feeds the algorithm and teaches the program how to be the program. But really what the NFL has is very different oftentimes than those media boards and with the public opinion on players. And so if he's being looked at from around the NFL as a top 10 tackle, and the New Orleans Saints, who not only listed their rookie numbers on the roster, but also on their team roster on the team website, but also positions, and listed Kelvin Banks specifically as a tackle, not OL, not guard, tackle. It explains and gives you a little bit of insight into why it is or where it is that the New Orleans Saints are probably going to be playing Kelvin Banks. It's unlikely that he's going to end up on the interior if we take those things in consideration. So where does he line up is going to be huge. Now, I'll bring you back to last year's rookie minicamp again, this time taking a look at Taliesin Fuanga. Taliesin Fuanga came in and it was a lot of the same question. Where is he going to play? Is he going to go to right tackle? Are they going to leave Trevor Penning at left tackle? Will he potentially move to the inside? What's going to happen there? And what did the Saints do? They came into rookie minicamps. They put him at left tackle. And then he never moved. He stayed there all throughout OTAs, all throughout training camp, all throughout the regular season. 17 games, he was the left tackle. And so this early indication of where Kelvin Banks plays could potentially answer a lot of other questions. If Kelvin Banks spends his time at left tackle during rookie minicamp, there's a chance that he's at left tackle come OTAs, that he's at left tackle come mandatory minicamp, and that he's at left tackle come training camp. At which time you could see Taliesin Fuanga move inside. You could see Taliesin Fuanga move back to his natural position at right tackle. You could see Trevor Penning stay at right tackle. You could see Trevor Penning move to the inside, or you could see something completely different. We don't know yet. Now, I think that the Saints will move him around over the course of the offseason, but honestly, I thought the same thing of Taliesin Fuanga. So that's the third thing that you're watching for when it comes to Kelvin Banks. If they're actually moving him around throughout rookie minicamps, then it gives you a little bit of an expectation that he'll continue to move around during training camp and that the Saints don't really feel set yet on what this offensive line will look like, which I think is true. I think you got to wait to see it before you can really say, yeah, this is what we think the offensive line is going to be. But if they don't move him around, it says one thing. If they do move him around, it might suggest a different thing. And then we'll see what happens when it gets to training camp time to kind of see what they're actually going to do. So it'll be very interesting for sure. But Kelvin Banks Jr., where he lines up is very much going to be of interest. Similarly, Quincy Riley, the fourth round cornerback that was drafted out of Louisville, comes in as somebody that has the ability to play on the outside as a perimeter corner, has the ability to play on the inside as a slot corner, did both during his time at Louisville, would play outside in base schemes or base snaps, and it would move inside for nickel snaps a la what we've seen from Alontae Taylor in the past. And so we could see, in this case, Quincy Riley on the outside, and then maybe see him on the inside. The question becomes, how many nickel snaps do we actually get the opportunity to see? Or are the Saints just going to be establishing their base defense for these young players at that time before they start rolling into sub packages? And then, what do they consider a sub package versus what do they consider their base? Are they looking at nickel as their base? They're looking at nickel as their sub package. Like, there's so many of these things that will become a little bit more apparent as early as this weekend. Even though they're lining up with the rookies, they're not lining up with the veterans. It still gives you a bit of an indication on where some of those answers or what some of those answers might be. And so that's going to be a big one to watch too, is where is Quincy Riley and what does that say about what the New Orleans Saints are planning to do over on the defensive side of the football? I believe you'll see Quincy Riley as, the first team corner, one of the first team corners, because you're not going to have any of the vets around. You might have a few vets on a tryout basis, but otherwise you're looking at guys like Dallas Beenham and other, younger corners that are here on tryouts and things like that. There's going to be a lot of those players and Quincy Riley. So Quincy Riley will effectively be CB1 throughout all this, but do they take the opportunity to move him around and see if maybe they can get him involved elsewhere? I want to come back to the other big thing that we'll learn about the New Orleans Saints defense as well, but let me tell you one more player that I'm excited to watch, and it should take you by no surprise. Really, I mean, look, honestly, you're excited to see the entire rookie class, right? These are all the new faces that represent a ton of hope, and they represent a new future for this New Orleans Saints football team, so you're excited to see all of them. I want to see Danny Stutsman on the field. When we come back to defense, I'll talk about him more, but I want to see his energy. I want to see his leadership. I want to see his vocalization. I want to see Fadil Diggs and how he, where he lines up, how he goes, all this other stuff, how he's utilized. But, Maliki Mataval, how is he utilized? What does he have the opportunity to do? And of course, Devin Neal, like seeing Alvin Kamara at rookie minicamp during the 2017 rookie season, you could see that he moved differently than everybody else around him. How does Devin Neal stand out in his class as well? So those are the things that I'm excited to see when it comes to some of these players, but in particular, Banks and Riley, where they line up. And then Devin Neal, just some of the usage of them. I want to come back to some of the defensive guys here in just a sec. But before we get to that, let's talk about injuries. There's always the chance that we learn something we don't want to learn at rookie minicamps. We got that coming up for you next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends at Upwork. If you got a small business, upscaling your small business sometimes can be a bit of a challenge, right? You got to find the right people and you got to find them at the right time. But with Upwork, you can make sure you're finding those specialized freelancers in whatever it is that you might be looking for. Advertising, marketing, development, design, and much more. You're going to be able to find the freelancers to help you scale your business and take it to the next level. I absolutely love what Upwork provides for some of these small businesses, including businesses that are working at things like IT, AI, web development, other things, right? All these startups that maybe aren't necessarily looking for long-term partners, but are looking for people to help them with short-term projects. And that is where the cost-effective growth that Upwork brings helps out with so much, makes everything affordable. And so you can find those top-tier freelancers. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with your top talent and help to scale your business today. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. There's always a chance that we learn something that no one wants to hear during rookie minicamps, and that is about injuries. And we get injury information. I wanted to cover this because it does happen sometime, and so I don't want people to be taken by surprise if it does take place. But here's the deal. Sometimes we show up to rookie minicamp. We expect to see a 9-player draft class, an 11-player undrafted free agency class, and then a lot of players that are there on tryouts and, trying to impress and make their way onto a team. But sometimes we see 8 out of those 9 drafted rookies or 10 out of those 11 undrafted free agents. You feel me? And when that happens, it typically happens because there is it's a couple different things, right? There's an injury from the end of somebody's collegiate playing career that doesn't allow them to fully get out onto the field right away. But they could be back on the field during training camp. They could be back and ready by the beginning of the season. The other thing is somebody might be rehabbing something that happened during the pre-draft process, or they're rehabbing something that happened during their final collegiate season. That's also something that could potentially happen. So one of the players that was most recently injured was Kelvin Banks Jr., right? Remember, he had that ankle injury that kept him out during the SEC championship game, but then he came back during the playoffs. Now, look, he came back during the playoffs. He played through the injury. He was a part of the entire pre-draft process. He participated in the combine, participated in pro days, all these other things. And so I'm not saying that he's somebody that's not going to be there or that he's going to be limited or something like that. But like, that's the type of player that sometimes is the surprise, that when you show up, all of a sudden they're not there. I don't think that's going to be the case with Kelvin Banks Jr. And so I don't want it to come off as me reporting. I'm just using him as an example. But sometimes that happens. And so when we get there on Saturday, it's going to be a pretty interesting and quick indication to find out who's healthy, who's not healthy, who's rehabbing, who's coming back from something, who's got a new injury. Sometimes as people get ready for mini camps and all that, these things do happen. So I wanted to put that on the radar. So it's not a complete shock if it does happen, but fingers crossed that it doesn't happen at all. And that all of these young guys who just had their dreams come true, landing with an NFL team, even for the offseason, gets their opportunity to be out there on that field during Saturday's practice. That's the fingers crossed. That's what we're hoping for everybody. All these guys deserve that. Okay, here's the other and last thing that I'm really excited to kind of learn about when it comes to rookie minicamps. How much of Brandon Staley's base scheme, foundational process do we get to see? Do we see odd man fronts? Do we see 3-3-5 nickel looks, 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs, as opposed to 4-2-5 nickel looks, 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs? And look, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between those two because one of those 3 linebackers in a 3-3-5 might still be a pass rusher. And so is that person standing up? Is that person putting their hand in the dirt? Where are they rushing from? All these other things, like those will be some of the caveats that we'll have to point out. But how much of that do we get the opportunity to see? They're not going to be installing the entire playbook here during rookie minicamp. They're not going to come out there and say, okay, here's everything that we do, enjoy. That's just not going to happen. Just as much as the acclimation process for the player exists in this situation, you're acclimating to the practice site, you're acclimating to the playbook, you're acclimating to the coaching staff. There's an acclimation period for these coaches too, where you're trying to acclimate to these players. Who's a good fit? Who works? Who's coachable? Who how far along are these guys? What is their starting place? How do we help them build from that starting place? There's all of those other little like nuancy things that are beginning at rookie minicamp, or at least are continuing. The process continues at rookie minicamp. It doesn't finish at rookie minicamp. It's not necessarily starting at rookie minicamp because you've been watching tape of these guys, doing meetings with them, having them for top 30 visits, going out and doing individual workouts with them. You get the idea. But I'm curious how much of Brandon Staley's defensive scheme we get a little bit of a glimpse at, and how different it looks from Dennis Allen. That's really the biggest thing. How different does the defense look? How different does the offense look, for that matter? But how different does this defense look in terms of its formations, in terms of the way that they play the field, and coverage types, coverage usage, all these other things. Like, these things will begin to already be pretty interesting. You're not going to get the full answer right away. That's okay. But starting to get a look at some of the differences in the patterns, differences in the approaches, and differences in the alignments are going to be really interesting. Something I'm excited to see. A part of that comes down to a couple of guys in this rookie class, in Danny Stutsman, the linebacker that was drafted in the 4th round, as well as the 7th round defensive end in Fadil, who is a guy that is another player that has received a lot of praise as a part of this New Orleans Saints coaching staff from other teams around the league so far from we can tell. So I'm curious to see how Diggs is utilized. Is he standing up off the edge? Are they having him put his hand in the dirt? That'll give us already a little bit of an indication. It answers 2 things. How is Fadil Diggs being used? But also gives us a little bit of an indication of what the defense might look like. What's different about this New Orleans Saints defense? Just having those stand-up edge rushers more consistently. Dennis Allen used stand-up edge rushers every now and then. Joe Woods and Darren Rizzi used stand-up edge rushers. Particularly Chase Young got to do that a little bit more last year, post Dennis Allen era. And so it'll be interesting to just kind of see, what's the difference? What looks different for these guys? Danny Stutsman, same thing. How's he utilized? And then how is he, if he's the one that's put in charge of the green dot? So the green dot is a little green dot. It's a sticker that goes on the back of a helmet, and that designates that this helmet has a communications device. That communications device allows you to be able to communicate with your defense and everything. If they're utilizing some of that, if they're even working with any of that, is Danny Stutsman the guy that gets that, or is he the one that's simulating that, or is he the one that is kind of getting ready for that, getting prepped to learn that side of the NFL game, right? Behind Demario Davis, behind Pete Werner. And so those pieces will be interesting as well, kind of what the usage is. Where does a guy like Jonas Sanker end up factoring in? Is he playing closer to the line of scrimmage? Is he dropping back in coverage? Where does Vernon Broughton line up? Is he going to be more of a nose tackle? So he kind of like Fadil Diggs checks two boxes for you. How is he being utilized? And what kind of scheme is being used? You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of those pieces that all kind of fold into one another, not so neatly, but give you so much information just from watching rookie minicamp. So I hope you can feel the excitement that I have of getting closer to exactly that. Coming up in tomorrow's episode, I want to continue on mandatory minicamp, but I want to focus down on the players, not necessarily what we're watching for, but who has the chance to surprise, who's kind of on watch, those kinds of things. We'll take a look at all of that as we dive into the personnel of rookie minicamp in tomorrow's show. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. And as always, if you see me, please say hi. If you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson Nola, Nola. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how you momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you. And of course, happy Cam Jordan Day.